Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode, a riveting episode, I should say, of the Final Word here on the It's a Rap Sports Network with your boy MattyB on the call on this glorious cold. I don't know where you are, man, but it was cold today. Tuesday, April the 1st. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. Thought about coming on here and doing a prank, but you know what? I was like, yeah, what am I, 10? So I said, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'll let my natural wit be the prank, I guess. But no, happy April Fool's Day. If you celebrate that, and if you've pranked or been pranked today, take it in the grain that it is supposed to be meant at. Jovial, fun. You know, remember those things in life? Fun. But it's great to be back here on this April 1st. We turn the calendar, and we're one step closer to summer. And I'm telling you, I'm going to go back to what I said. I don't know where you were in the world today, but where I was, it was like, I don't think it got above 39. The entire day. And that's not happy weather in April. And I was actually at a baseball game today. Yes, it was. So pretty miserable day to play baseball. But it's great to be back here on the program tonight. Kind of squeezing the final word in between all the post-game stuff as we are in full bloom here on the network with the Fight's final. And, of course, last night, if you weren't here, go back and check it out on the YouTube. We finished our Clear the Ice coverage, Flyers coverage for the 24-25 season. Kind of sent it out on a high note, Flyers with the victory over the Predators 2-1. And of course, because of the situation here around the Flyers, manpower issues here on the network, and the fact that we're into Philly season, I felt it appropriate to kind of just cut bait on the Flyers postgame for this season. But we will be back. I got to reiterate that and preface that every time. We will be back next year for another fun season. And hopefully next year, one, they can't miss the playoffs for a 6th straight year, can they? I don't think they ever have done that in the history of their organization. So I would hope to God that next year is the playoff year, and next year we'll have a playoff run. And that's what I'm looking forward to next season. So, but we'll keep you up to date on all things Flyers and Orange and Black as we move through this rest of the season and into the off season. And we'll be back in the summer to review the season, look ahead at the draft, and look ahead at free agency, which we kind of look at the draft just about every night here on this program. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone. But tonight, it's all about the Phillies. It's great to say that, isn't it? Isn't it great to say that it's all about the baseball team? 4 games in, 3-1. Wonky 3-1, not the most traditional 3-1. Sure as hell ain't like the Dodgers, the way they're playing baseball these days. But they're 3-1, and they're winning despite themselves and despite the same problems that have affected this team for years. And my question, simply put, tonight, is it okay, and I am going to use the P word, is it okay to panic 4 games into a season? And I want to, and I want to be very clear with what I mean by that. I'm not saying, oh no, no. I mean, not based on what you've seen in 2025. That's not what I'm asking for. 2025 is 4 games old. You can't panic in a season that's 4 games old. But I'm asking because of the trends. I'm asking because it's the same stuff that's bothering this team year after year after year. Is it okay 4 games into the season to panic because we just can't seem to be any better any other time of the year ever when it comes to certain aspects of the sport of baseball? Runners in scoring position is definitely a top of my list, and we're going to get into a few others. So, I mean, is it okay to panic based on what you've seen through 4 games in 2025 and also what you've seen in the recent past? Because, yes, every season is different, but is it though? Is it? With this team who's bringing back the same players year after year after year and expecting different results? So a very simple question. Is it okay to panic 4 games into a season? Knowing what you know about this team. We may talk some Flyers. I don't know. We may mix some Flyers into the conversation tonight, but we're also going to do our Of the Night segment and our card review. That's right. The card review is back. Programming note. I'll be back. I'm here tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night and Thursday night. So I am with you for the rest of the week. I do have post-game duties on Thursday afternoon, but it's early enough in the day so I can kind of cut things both ways. So I'll be back on Thursday night. So you and me the rest of the week. 10 o'clock, it's a date. So, and of course, our day in Philadelphia sports history, all those great things we're going to get into here in a moment. And let's check out some of this. Joe, how are you? Doing well. Good to see you again. Michael Papernick says the Braves are 0-5, and that shocks me. Yes. Jackson Profar is now suspended for 80 games. Spencer Strider still is not back from DL, from Tommy John. We've said this before. You cannot win a World Series in March and April, but you sure as heck can lose one. And 0-5 is not a way you want to get started. I don't care who you are. And I'm not saying the Brave season's over. It's not by a long shot, but you put yourself in an awkward position 0-5. Now, the Phillies a few years back, if I ain't mistaken, were 1-5 to start the season. Wasn't that the 2023 season? Getting swept out in Texas and then losing 2 out of 3 in the Bronx. Went home against the Reds to raise up the National League Championship banner, 1-5, if you recall. So I'm not saying the season's over by a long stretch, but I'm saying it's a bad spot to put yourself in. But if you're going to slump, I guess slumping early on in the season is the way to do it. But you're right, Mike. They are struggling 0-5, which is a good thing to see, right? A good thing to see. All right. So let's get started with your day in Philadelphia sports history. But before you do, I want to make known that please give us a like, a subscribe, a shout out, a ring the bell, pass on the word. If you see all the ticker down there, all the platforms we're available on, go ahead and check us out. But of course, Facebook and the YouTube are the two main ones that we really need your help. Please help us grow the network as it is growing, and that is evident by what's happening this week, because we got a bunch of new stuff dropping this week. And let's get into one of them right now. Thursday night at 9. Be here if MLS is your thing, if the Union is your thing, if soccer or football is your thing, then you need to be here on Thursday nights at 9, starting this Thursday at 9, for the Attacking Third with Steve Fuentes and Pat Bernard, as they will give you everything Union and everything soccer to what's coming out your ears, man. So make sure you check out the Attacking Third, premiering this week, Thursday night at 9 p.m. And also premiering this week on Sunday morning at 9, the Wraparound with Pat Bernard. Now, the Wraparound is a Sal G show. Sal's taking a hiatus, so Pat Bernard is in the seat. He's going to be doing some hosting duties, and we switched the show till 9 o'clock on Sunday to convenience Pat. You know, make it more comfortable for Pat. Pat wanted it, so I gave the blessing off, seal of approval. And Pat's going to move his show to Sundays at 9, or move the Wraparound to Sundays at 9 until May 4th. Then on May 4th, we're going to move the Wraparound out of that Sunday slot, and I'm thinking about what we're going to do with it after that, because on May 4th, we got the PNM and the AM show coming at you every Sundays at 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. starting on May 4th. You may have remembered this show from EOP of the past. We're bringing it here. It lives. The unholy life of it lives, and it returns on May the 4th. All those great things. And, of course, my show every Sunday through Thursday, barring extreme post-game duties, every Sunday through Thursday. So there you go. There's the latest and greatest programming from your friends here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network. So before we get going, as I said, let's strap in, strap up, strap on. Yeah, I said strap on. Make sure your hands and your feet and your head inside the car at all times, and let's go. Your day in Philadelphia sports history, 1985. April the 1st, 1985. It definitely had an April Fool's ring to it. It made no sense. It did not equate. It didn't work out. There's no way we could fathom it. But on this day back in 1985, those Villanova Wildcats shocked the college basketball world by dethroning the Georgetown Hoyas and capturing the 85 NCAA championship. The Wildcats entered the tournament that year. It was actually the first year. Did you know it was the first year of the Field of 64 at the NCAA tournament? I did not know that. It was the first year of the Field of 64, and it was the last year college basketball did not use a shot clock. So with all those first and all those last, Nova somehow found their way into the tournament. I think they won the Big East tournament, got into the NCAAs as an 8, went on this run that included victories against Dayton, Michigan, who was a number 1 seed, Maryland, North Carolina, who was a 2, and Memphis, who was a 2, before meeting up with the Georgetown Hoyas in a epic clash of David versus Goliath, Big East rivals, all that. There was no earthly way that Georgetown could lose that game, but they did to the Cinderella Wildcats and Nova captured their first NCAA National Basketball Championship on this day in '85, and I remember it. I remember it well. I went on the ride with the Wildcats in '85 too. I was 12, so I definitely was into what was happening and very, very real watching what was going on. And it was a great run. It was a great tournament. And obviously Nova now since then has won 2 additional national championships. They're about 17 light years away from another one, as they're just fired their head coach now, and they're starting over again. But I will never forget the '85 season, the '84-'85 college basketball season. Villanova, Raleigh, Massimino. I mean, just everything about that season was magical. Nova, as I said, they were a middling team throughout the regular season. They got into the Big East tournament. They won it because that was the only way they're going to get in. And they got in and they went on the run. And that's what I fear is now gone. And a lot of people fear is now gone in college basketball with the transfer portals, because there's no way that a Villanova can potentially make a run like that, because there's just too many cards stacked against them. And that's a shame. And if that's the case, and it's looking like that is the case, college basketball in this country is truly dead. And that is a shame, because moments like the '85 Nova, something will live in your life forever. So there you go. This night in 1985, Villanova dethroned the Goliath Georgetown Hoyas, led by Pat Ewing, and took down and won the national championship. So congratulations to the Hoyas, or to the Hoyas. Yeah, the Wildcats, god damn. Your day in Philadelphia sports history. So it has the makings of an April Fool's joke, right? When you Wildcats win the national championship, come on, man. The country's putting on a prank in the college basketball tournament. But nope, no. It was real. Joe says, I'm worried about Mr. Walker tomorrow. Joe, I don't think Mr. Walker's pitching tomorrow. I think because of the day off, and I saw this the other night when I was doing the final, that the Phillies announced Zach Wheeler's going tomorrow. They're skipping right over Walker and going to Wheeler on his 5th day. And I believe he's going to be opposed by Kyle Freeland. I saw that yesterday. Now, let me go back and verify, because maybe they've changed it. But I saw it reported as of yesterday after I was doing the Fightins final in the post game. I went and looked at that, and it said Zach Wheeler was going against Kyle Freeland. So let me look at it. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Why is things going so slow? Yes, Kyle Freeland versus Zach Wheeler, Joe. So you're not going to see Mr. Walker tomorrow, as the Phillies are going to leap over their 5th starter, their $8 million a year player, and go right to Zach Wheeler, as he'll get his 5th day, on his scheduled start, which is a good thing. Wheeler doesn't do well on 6 days off. Walker doesn't do well on 100 days off. So it's no brainer to me. We're going to go right back to the top of the rotation. And maybe, who knows, by the time we get back down to 5, which they're not going to be able to avoid the next time through, because the days off won't sync up that way. But they're going to have to throw somebody out there on that day. Now, whether or not that's Taijuan Walker, Ranger Suarez, insert pitcher's name here, whoever that is, but we're going to have to see who the 5th starter is at least the next time through the rotation. But yes, so apparently what I'm tracking is Zach Wheeler will get the start tomorrow against Kyle Freeland. Dave checking in. Dave, how you been, man? Pat Ewing was the center of Georgetown last season. Center of Georgetown, center of basketball, center of the world. Dave, I don't know how old you are, man, but back in the day, and this was actually after '85, man, maybe it was around '85. The Georgetown Hoya brand was like the bomb. I mean, I personally hated it. That gray and that, I guess, dark navy blue, but the starter jackets, that's where all that came from, right? It was the damn Georgetown starter jacket that started that starter jacket craze. And the hats. Yeah, and I refused to wear any of that Georgetown crap. Georgetown to me was the Dallas Cowboys as it pertained to college basketball. Of course, Georgetown has fallen on some hard times over the last 35 years, and they are nowhere near that type of team again. I think since the Iverson years, Georgetown hasn't been anything. But there was a time, and that was the time, and Pat Ewing, Dave Wingate, Mutombo played there. Those players, they made Georgetown what Georgetown was. And they were definitely the the powerhouse of college basketball for a very long time through the mid 80s into the 90s. But you're right about the Pat Ewing thing. And why not? One of the best players ever to play the game of basketball. All right, Dave. College basketball side. Let's get into the main meat and bones. By the way, episode 99 of The Final Word. Little pat on my back. Tomorrow will be my 100th episode. Should I plan a party for myself? Should I do those types of things? I don't know. 100. I'll be 100 years old tomorrow. Cannot believe that I've chugged through 100 of these things since October. But yeah, 100th episode tomorrow. Probably no fanfare. I got to work tomorrow, so not going to have time to really throw anything together that noteworthy. Maybe I should get a guest. Who was my first guest ever in my life? Maybe I'll bring him in. That was Brian Propp. No, I probably can't swing that in a day. But anyway, Phillies, 4 games in, 3-1. And of course, it's not a clean 3-1, but if you're not the Dodgers, does everybody have sort of concerns about their team? And I don't care if you're 3-1, 4-0, 5-0, 1-5, 1-2, 1-3, 3-3, whatever you are. If you're not the defending world champions, shouldn't everybody have concerns about the state of their team 4 games into a season, 3 games into a season, 88 games into a season, 105 games into a season? Because I come from the school, and that school is a combination of old school and Philadelphia sports school, because I was raised in this culture, and I was raised in the times where we were real short on patience, but long on criticism. And why not? The championships. And I think this plays into it. I do for the Phillies. 142 seasons now, 2 world championships. Forgive me if I don't get really excited about things that are going around. But yeah, I mean, do you have a right to be, and I use the P word, and I'm going to use it again. Do you have a right to panic when it comes to your fighting Phillies 4 games into a season? Not based on the 4 games of 2025, but based on the games that have preceded it as well. The games in 2024, 2023, and 2022, because we can go that far back, because this group has been together since then, and with really no significant changes. Right? I mean, yeah, you can throw a Trey Turner in here, and then you toss in a Max Kepler, but for the most part, this has been the group since 2022. And the last time I checked, the same issues that plagued 2022 Philadelphia Phillies is still plaguing 2025 Philadelphia Phillies. And I think it's a question that is not being asked because people are afraid to broach that subject 4 games into a season. But it's not really 4 games. It's what's 162 times 3 plus 4? Because that's how many games we're into this. And I think we need to start looking at it like that. And maybe the first question before I ask you, is it time to panic? The question is it legitimate to lump everything in together to include the 4 games of 2025 and then begin to kind of, go down that road? Or are you on that every season's a new season? We leave the past in the past and we move forward into the future. I would buy that more if we made wholesale changes throughout this team throughout years, but we haven't. It's essentially the same group. It's the same core, same manager, same philosophies, same tired practices, same nonsense with the leadoff hitter, same bullpen with no roles. All those things are the same. So again, do you panic 4 games into a season? Because I'm starting to think you do. And here's why. And I'm going to throw up a couple numbers just to wet your whistles here. Runners in scoring position. Yeah, my favorite. Batting average. 270 right now, 10 for 37, which is nothing really to sneeze at. I'm kind of digging that. That's the major league minimum, I think, for being able to consistently knock in hitters while in scoring position. But prior to yesterday's feasting off the bullpen, the Phillies had gone 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position through their last 14 innings. Now you take the 270 batting average currently, 10 for 37, and inside of that 10 for 37 is the 0 for 12. yeah, it correlates, and I think it's legitimate to talk about. Phillies have left 30 runners on base this year, just randomly on base, first, second, or third. 30, averaging 7.5 runners left on base a game. A game. This team also, another trend that started late last season, and what I mean by late last season is like second half of last season, with the pitching staff giving up home runs epically. So, little context. The Phillies as a pitching staff gave up 64 home runs through the first 81 games of 2024. 64 home runs through the first 81 games of 2024. They gave up 118 home runs to the second 81 games of 2024. And thus far in 2025, in 4 games, the Phillies pitching staff has given up 7 home runs. They're giving up close to 2 home runs a game. To be precise, 1.75 home runs, 1 3/4 home runs a game. You can't hit 3/4 of a home run. The Phillies are bashing home runs out at their own epic pace right now. They've hit 8, so they're averaging 2 a game. But Phillies pitching, both the bullpen and the starting rotation, this is a trend now that has bled over from 2024 with not being able to keep the ball in the yard. And this, again, at least in 2025, it's not against the rest of the Major League Baseball. No, it's against the Rockies and the Nationals. So I want to ask you, based on those numbers that I gave you, 2 stats, RISP, home runs allowed, trends from the past, just by those 2 numbers, is it right to start panicking about the 2025 Philadelphia Phillies? And I think they're legitimate questions. Mike says, I panic all the time knowing the fate of my Phillies are in the bumbling fool manager Robbie. And he definitely, I don't like Rob Thompson either. And I thought he should have been out of here after 20. Listen, I wanted him out of here after 2023. But after what happened last year and the 40-18, right, before June 1st, and then was it 54-49 or 54-41, whatever they were, 54-51, whatever they were, 500 like the rest of 2024, and then they just kind of like literally showed up to the playoffs and then left right away. I definitely thought he should have been fired. It was hard. It was very hard for me to understand why the Phillies brought him back for another year, honestly. And yeah, that's a lot of it, right? the conundrum with the leadoff hitter, it just won't ever go away. It just won't. And I think Rob did an interview today where he was asked about it and said essentially if Trey Turner isn't playing, Kyle Schwarber basically alluded that Kyle Schwarber was going right back into that line, that leadoff spot. And that bothers me, man. That bothers me. Who's running the railroad in this team? Of course, the bullpen with no roles. I mean, there's so much we can talk about Rob Thompson. He's already kind of, in my opinion, managed his way out of a couple potential. Thankfully, he won the games, but he made some real questionable managing decisions so far. I should really start keeping a tracker of those things. But yeah, you're right, Mike. That is right. Dave says Walker's pitching on Thursday. Okay, so they're going to go to Walker on Thursday. That's interesting. So they're going to throw Nola, or they're going to throw Luzardo on 6, Nola on 6. That's really interesting because Nola doesn't do well on 6. Nola's worse than Wheeler is on 6 days of rest. Wow. Bumbling fool Rob Thompson. There we go. Great segue there, Dave. I appreciate that. I'm concerned they can't hit with runners in scoring position and stealing base scare me. Okay, and Joe brought it up too. Let's go into the stolen base category, right? Through 4 games in 2025, the Phillies have stolen 1 base. They're averaging a quarter of a stolen bases a game. Their opposition has stolen 5. Now, they have not given up any stolen bases since game 2 in Washington, but through the first 2 games of the Washington National Series, Nats base runners had stolen 5 bases off of JT Realmuto, and the Phillies had only stolen 1, which is interesting. Maybe because there's no speed in the lineup and all the power's up top of the lineup, and it's hard to kind of get things moving down the bottom of the lineup. So now, is this a trend? The stolen bases actually. Let's look at stolen bases from last year. 78 stolen bases by the Phillies in the first 81 games. 64 in the second 81 game. So, yeah, down slightly, right? Opponents stole 58 bases against the Phillies in the first 81 games of 2024 and 50 in the second 81. So that's about the same. So this trend is a little alarming, right? They've stolen 1 base and they've given up 5 stolen bases so far through 2025. Again, I ask you, is it okay to start panicking? And not based on the 4 games of 2025, but based on what this team has been for a better part of 3 years. And the justification of your panic is fine, because why wouldn't you be allowed to panic? And why couldn't you, usurp the norm and tell people out there, I'm going to panic 4 games in, because it's not really 4 games in. What do we say? 162 times 3 plus 4? Somebody do the quick math for me. I don't know what it is, because that's how many games we're in. And if you also want to throw in the postseason, there's a lot more to go there too. So we are more than 4 games in to this Phillies team. Or are you part of that every season's new, we got to give it its due? I would go along with that more if there was significant change on this team. But there isn't. And so all the preseason prognostications here on this network, here other places, 95 wins, 92 wins, World Series, I don't see it. I honestly don't, because again, you can't, eventually when you stick your face in the fan, it's going to start hurting, and then you're not going to do it anymore. And I've stuck my face in the Phillies fan for 3 years and keep getting cut, but that's it. And I'm getting tired of getting cut. So until I see something that changes my opinion based on what I've seen over the last 3 or 4 seasons, I'm sticking with what I got. 88 wins, lost in the NLCS to the Dodgers. Because right now, I don't see anything different than that. They have not shown me anything different. Now, is there some encouragement as well? Is there some encouraging signs with this team? And we'll get into the whole starting pitching issue here in a second, with the Phillies not being able to score runs off starting pitching. And that's a new one, by the way. That was never really a problem. But is there some encouraging signs from this team? 100%. Kyle Schwarber continues to consistently hit. It seems like no matter where they put him in the lineup. But again, and the whole thing about Schwarber batting lower in the lineup, it's all about maximizing his RBI potential. That's all it is. I don't care about any of the other stuff. It's about maximizing his RBI potential. And I think you do it more batting him 4th than you do at 1. And that's just old school baseball, and that's never going to change. Some of the play of Max Kepler off the start of the season, very encouraging, right? Some of the other play from some of the other, Armando Sosa is an extremely encouraging thing, but it's unfortunate because Sosa's just going to sit, right? It's going to sit when Turner comes back, which should be probably tomorrow. So he's not going to be able to play and continue on because he's a role player, and that's not what he does, or a utility guy, whatever. The starting rotation has been pretty damn good, right? As advertised, as it has been advertised. But can they maintain that? Which I think to a certain extent they can. The bullpen's been kind of up and down. And I think a lot that has to do with no roles, which we can debate that left and right, because to me, that's a simple fix. Give these guys roles. And then sit back and do what you did with Nick Castellanos, and been patient till the cows come home and let them figure things out. But it's funny how and when I say he, I mean Rob Thompson, how he's patient with some players and impatient with others. It's just really inconsistent there. But there's been some encouraging signs. All right, the bullpen has not been encouraging. The play of JT Realmuto has not been encouraging. Trey Turner, obviously with the injury situation, is not encouraging. Bryce Harper is sort of like on the fence right now, as he typically is every season at this point, trying to wake up. It seems to be just about a hair off. Nick Castellanos has been sort of up and down, right? I don't know, man. It's just we've heard this story before. We've all heard it before. We've talked it before. We've lived in, we've died it before. At what point do you start saying, I'm 4 games into the season and I'm panicking because I still see the same thing I saw in 24, 23, and 22. And there's no signs that it's going to change. And I know what some of you, and I have not used the homer word in a while, and I'm going to use it here. Some of you homers out there are saying, You got to have faith. It's a marathon, not a sprint. That's baseball. You're going to Big Al's Excuse Emporium, and you're going on a shopping spree to try to convince me, others, and yourselves that things are going to be different. And yet there's no other concrete reasons to believe that they will be. So I'm going to ask, is it okay to panic 4 games into a season when it's the same product that it's been over the last 3? And I say it is. And I say, if you break it down to somebody like that, if you tell them I'm panicking, and they're like, whoa, what do you mean you're panicking? 4 games in? Yeah, I'm panicking, man. How can you panic 4 games in? Well, it's not really 4 games in. It's 162 plus 3 times 3 plus 4. That's what it is. So tomorrow night, right? First night game of the year. How does that happen? How do we 5 games into the season? We haven't played a night game yet. Wow. First night game of the year. And then tomorrow or Thursday in the afternoon. And then we got the Dodgers. You guys know that too, right? The Dodgers are coming in behind the Rockies. So if the Phillies cannot get into the Dodgers series, at least, 5-1? I mean, they should be 6-0. But they got to get to the Dodgers series 5-1. I'm not saying it's a pivotal series in April, but it is sort of. It's a pivotal series. I want to see how they stack up against the world champs, because that's the team that they're going to have to take down. And right now in April, are they up to that task? And I know Rob Thompson will not manage it like that. Rob Thompson is going to manage it like it's April 7th or April 8th, 9th, whatever it is. He's not going to manage it like Game 7 of the World Series. He doesn't manage anything like Game 7 of the World Series, which is another frustrating attribute of that manager. No sense of urgency. He's not going to manage that way. He's not even going to try and see early on in the season. Let me push him and see what we do against the Dodgers. Maybe a morale boost, especially at home. If we could sweep out the Dodgers or take 2 out of 3 from them at home, you know what that would be to the fan base? It'd be amazing. Absolutely amazing. And Joe echoes my sentiment right there. They got to take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. And I agree. And you're right. There's no trophy yet waiting for that. There's no division championship at the end of the weekend. But there is a shot in the arm and says, you know what? I don't care how we did it. We beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3. And they're the reigning world champions. Yeah, I mean, that's going to make you feel good. That's definitely going to make the Phillies fan base feel good. Now, the last thing about the Phillies I do want to talk about before we move on and get into the other night segment and possibly Flyers. I don't know yet. I'm still debating whether I want to talk about the Flyers, but is this new thing that's cropped up so far through 4 games. That's the starting pitching issues with the Phillies in terms of being able to hit the starting pitching. And now that to me is extremely concerning because of who the teams are. Now, I want to also preface this by saying it's April 1st. Every single team in the major leagues thinks they are a World Series contender right now. They're not, but they think they are. And they should. The season's not even a week old. Everybody believes still with fresh hope, expectations that they can win a World Series. So everyone's going out there for the most part and putting it all out there on the line in the first week of the season, or actually about 6 weeks before it begins to sort of shake out. And the Phillies went up against 5 pitchers who you might be able to say, I think you can say, they're not what you would call the cream of the MLB crop. But maybe I like Mackenzie Gore. I think he's a good pitcher now. He might have been aided a little bit by the shadows the other day. I'll give you that too. But I think Mackenzie Gore is a good pitcher. It's part of that Juan Soto trade. But this is a new one. 2 earned runs against starting pitching heading into tomorrow night's game. The Phillies have scored 2 earned runs against starters. Again, this is something new. They haven't done this yet. And this is a new for 2025. We can't score against the starting pitchers. Now, 2 schools of thought to this one as well. And I said this on the final yesterday. It's not 1987. It's not 1994. There's very rarely are we going to see complete games from starting pitchers. There's very rarely we're going to see 130 pitches a game from a starting pitcher. We're not going to see that anymore. We're going to see maybe 100 pitches, but through the first 5 innings, and then they're going to be gone. So it's not the same era of baseball. Like if this is 1987 and 1990 or whatever, and we were struggling like this against starters, I would be extremely concerned. But it's not. It's the new era of baseball. Bullpens are probably more important than rotations are. If you think about it, if you really sit down and think about it, your bullpen is more important than your rotation throughout the longevity of the season. And it's funny to me that a lot of teams don't even see that yet. They still invest time, money, resources into the rotation where they let the bullpen just sort of fall apart. And if you look at it, I mean, am I the only one who sees the fact that the bullpen is probably more important these days than the rotation is? And the Phillies have beat up on some bad bullpens. They have. They beat up on the Nationals bullpen, which was terrible. And if I was Mackenzie Gore, I would have been pissed after that game. I struck out 13 batters. I battled those shadows all day long. And you guys came in and did that. Wow. And then they also yesterday did not fare well against German Marquez. And then they beat up on the Rockies bullpen late. So the fact that they can't score against starting pitching would be more of an issue to me if this was 30 years ago. It's not really that big of an issue to me, but I can understand why some people are looking at it and being concerned because we won. And I think the main concern with that stat is we haven't played anybody decent yet. And then when we do get around to the Dodgers, the Braves, the Mets, teams like that, and the Mets don't have a good starting rotation, but when we get around to good starting rotations and good offenses, are we going to be so far out of a game by the time the 5th, 6th inning rolls around and we get to the bullpen that that's not going to matter? And that might be what the concern is here about that. And it's a legitimate concern. They probably got to find a way to get through the rotations and get some runs against starting pitchers here real soon. But honestly, it's not a deal breaker to me at this point. It's not because of the importance of the bullpens. And for some odd reason, the lack of importance that teams spend building their bullpen. So I get the concern and I get the glaring numbers, but it's 2025 and bullpens rule the day. And if you don't have the gumption to go out and plus up your bullpen and take all the time in the world to get yourself a better bullpen, then you deserve to get beat around when the starter is done. You deserve it because you need to have a good bullpen. So I'm not going to take too much stock into that one. It's a concerning number and it's something new. So I guess you have to give the Phillies that. They broke new ground in 2025, not being able to score all starting pitching. Congratulations. I don't know if that's in order, but I'm not going to get overly freaked out about that one right now because baseball games are 9 innings. They're not 5. They're 9 innings, not 6. And you got to play to the end. So I will not get all bent out of shape about that. Mike's concerned about the Phillies bullpen and their roles in this bullpen by committee. Yeah, let's kind of unpack that. The bullpen by roles or lack of roles. You know, we've already seen it on display. It's almost like he's out there throwing people out there. And I know he's governed by analytics and matchups and all that. But what did he say about, and this was nothing about the bullpen, but this is what Rob Thompson's mind is. And this is where his head is. And this is what concerns me about Rob Thompson. Well, one of many things. In an interview given the other day about why he did not pinch hit Max Kepler in the Saturday game against the Nationals, and he instead pinch hit Cody Clemens. The reason given by Rob Thompson was because Cody Clemens had seen the pitcher in the minor leagues. What in the hell does that got to do with anything? That Cody Clemens probably about 3 or 4 years ago or 2 years ago, whatever the case might have been, saw this guy in the minor leagues and Kepler hadn't seen him at all. What does that have to do with anything? So that kind of stuff just boggles my mind that he busts those things out. Listen, you gotta pre-say these things in your mind and be like, you know what? That sounds stupid. I ain't gonna. That sounds like something any fan would do. I mean, not a baseball manager, because he's seen him in the minor leagues. At least he didn't say because he's seen him in the little league. At least he didn't say that. Maybe I should really thank my lucky stars that he didn't see, because Cody Clemens faced that pitcher in the little league, and he said minor leagues instead. So let me backpedal. I mean, it's ridiculous that you would say something like that. And it's ridiculous that would be the driving force to not pinch hit Max Kepler in that situation. Absolutely ridiculous. But back to the question at hand, and Michael threw out a big one, kind of layered question here. He's concerned about the Phillies bullpen. Yeah, and we're already starting to see it right now, right? I mean, in no universe does Ryan Kirkering need to be pitching in the 6th inning. No, he doesn't. In no universe does Joe Ross need to be pitching in the 8th inning. Joe Ross is a spot starter / bullpen long reliever, right? But here he is in late leverage situations for the Phillies pitching. In no universe, is Matt Strahm supposed to be pitching in the 8th or 9th inning? And yes, I believe that he's not. Matt Strahm is not a setup guy, and he's not a closer. Matt Strahm is not a middle reliever. He's the bridge guy. He's the 6th inning guy. He's a classic 6th inning guy and 7th inning guy. But in this bullpen, they're all over the place. Alvarado's up and down. Kirkering's all over the place. Romano, that's by the way, that's how you say it. Not Romano, but Romano. I mean, he was terrible in his debut. But he's got closer stuff. But the problem is he doesn't know his role. And that's going to hurt him to get more. That's going to hurt him getting comfortable anyway, not knowing his role. And why would any bullpen person come here not knowing what their role was going to be in the bullpen? And yeah, Josh Hader. Let's go to Josh Hader. Remember when everybody talked about getting him a couple years ago? Was it last year? He hit the market in 24. Josh Hader wouldn't come here. Not without being told he's the closer. That's what his job is. That's what he wants to be. And that's what he's good at. But he ain't coming here with no roles. When what did they say when they traded for Carlos Estevez, who was the closer in Anaheim? Dave Dombrowski said it. We're going to ask him to do other things here. It's ridiculous, man. If someone does something well at one role, leave him in that goddamn role. Why are we trying to recreate the wheel here? I don't understand the philosophy. I don't. And it's not necessarily from Rob Thompson, because apparently it's supported by management. And I don't understand that. Robbie's a bumbling fool. We go from that to that. Just fire Robbie and hire a Little League coach who could do better. No, come on, Mike. Come on now. Little League coach wouldn't do better than Rob Thompson, because the Little League coach would try to stand up to Kyle Schwarber. I know I would, just to stand up to him. Right? A Little League coach would probably put roles in the bullpen, or yeah, you would do that. Right? I mean, I know I would. Listen, I would love to be a fly on the wall in the Phillies clubhouse for a week. I'd love to see the dynamics in that clubhouse. Like, who really is in charge? What does Rob Thompson do on a day-to-day basis with that team? How does that team, and the accountability piece, I would love to see how that's done at all, if at all. A fly on the wall, fly in the office, somewhere I would love to just know how things are being hammered out by the Phillies and how they run day-to-day baseball operations with their team. Okay, then the fifth starter is a mess. Absolutely is a mess. And that has not been taken care of, right? I mean, we entered the season, but I guess they thought Ranger was going to be the fifth starter. So I'm not going to bash on them too hard, right? They thought Ranger was going to be the starter. Injuries happen, but it is concerning that there's no other depth in this organization other than Taijuan Walker, who, of course, we already know why he's pitching. He's only pitching because of the money that they owe him. And they're going to rather him give up big leads and give up big games in lieu of not paying him, which makes no sense either. But yeah, the fifth starter is a problem, and I know what everyone's little wish list of Santa Clauses and Christmas in July. I know what you're wanting. I know what everybody wants under their Christmas tree in July. I know it. And I'm telling you, you're setting yourselves up for a big painter failure. All right. You're setting yourselves up, and we're treating this kid a lot like I remember hearing Spencer Howard a few years back. That's what we're doing to this kid. And unfortunately, Spencer Howard had better at the time, ceiling, because he was healthy at that time. So I think we're putting way too much pressure on Andrew Painter in 2025. I would be fine if Andrew Painter never saw the Phillies in 2025. 100% fine with it. Start him off fresh in 2026 where he can throw, he can pitch, he can go through a full camp, he can go through a full spring training, and then you go from there. So I'm just telling you, be careful for what you're wishing for with Andrew Painter. I don't think it's going to turn out the way you want it to be. We're putting too much expectations on a kid who hasn't pitched competitively in 2 years and is coming back from Tommy John and has never pitched above the Double-A level. We're putting way too much pressure to be the savior to the rotation in late July. Telling you, man, Pump the brakes. Seth Johnson looks good so far, the Iron Pigs. Yeah, I highlighted Seth Johnson in our first Down on the Phillies Farm segment of the year. He was the pitcher of the week in the 2 games the Pigs played last week. He was one of the winners. 5 innings, I think 5 1/3, 5 strikeouts, no walks, no runs. Went 5 1/3, 5 strikeouts. He got the win. He came over in the Soto deal, correct? Was the Soto and the Dominguez trades, they were separate trades, right? They weren't like one trade, like Soto and Dominguez for Chase Johnson. Was it that type of trade? Wasn't Austin Riley part of that deal too? Didn't Austin Riley come from the Orioles? I don't even remember. Was it all one trade? I guess it really doesn't matter, but Romano's, yeah, he is coming off of a really injury-plagued 2024. But he does have closer stuff, and he's been an effective closer in the past. He was an all-star in 2023. I mean, he's got the pedigree. He's got the knowledge. He's got the know-how. He's done it. So I'm okay with taking a chance on him. And I said this back in the offseason, when it came to the Phillies' choices of free agents. Were these the moves that the Phillies are, World Series team should be making? Same thing I'm saying about the Eagles. Are these the moves that a defending Super Bowl champion should be making to defend their title? Depth pieces, But we'll wait and see. Walker in the bullpen for 1 inning, and only that's all he's good for. Yeah, well, he's good for more than 1 inning, Mike. He's good for 1 rotation through the lineup, right? You can't see the lineup a second time. Yeah, Walker, if you're not going to use him as a starter, and I understand why you wouldn't, then use him as a long reliever or use him as a closer. Because I think he throws hard. I mean, he throws close to 100 miles an hour. He's got good velocity, but you're right. He just can't stay he can't stay in the game. He's got a shelf life quicker than John Tortorella, right? I mean, they get to him by the second time through the lineup. Typically, it takes 2 rotations through the lineup for the batters to figure you out. Him, it's the second time they figure him out. That's the problem. He can't start because he just doesn't have the durability to go deep into a game. He's getting rocked in the 3rd inning. So by nature of that alone, he needs to go into the bullpen. And I think he could work as a closer. I do. In a pinch. We got people that can be closers on this team. But if we needed to, Walker could be used as a closer. And he could also be used as a long man for an inning or 2. An inning. Johnson came over. I know he did, but I was wondering what there was the Soto Dominguez trade one mega trade that Soto Dominguez went to the Orioles and the Phillies got Chase Johnson. And was Austin Hayes part of that trade? Was it one mega trade or were they 2 separate trades? Or potentially 3? Have Walker watch video of John Smoltz as a closer. No one, yeah, and you know what? John Smoltz converted very simply. I mean, and that's exactly why Smoltz had to go into the bullpen because he just didn't have the durability anymore. He couldn't go 5-6 innings. He could do it for 1 inning or 1.5 or 12 pitches. And it was okay to say that. He was very effective as a closer. Very effective. But the bottom line, folks, to me, is can the Phillies, is it time to panic? And not over 4 games of 2025, but is it time to panic over the course of the last 3 seasons and 4 games? Because I think they're 2 different types of questions. Obviously, you're not panicking over 4 games. But when you factor in 2022, 23, 24, and 4 games into 2025, I think it changes the landscape a little bit. And is it time to panic with all that? And all that we know is it time to panic. And the Phillies will get back at it tomorrow. As I mentioned, Johnson, you got me talking about John Smoltz. Zach Wheeler will be going for the Phillies and he'll be opposed by Kyle Freeland. And don't forget, here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network, we got you covered immediately following the game, the Fightings Final with Sal G. He will take you through that post-game, and then right after that post-game will be my show. I will be coming at you on Thursday afternoon, the first business person special at Citizen Bank Park, if you don't count opening day. And Powder Blues, everybody, right? That should be Powder Blues Day, Thursday, or Robin Egg Blue, like I was told the color was when I was a kid. Robin egg blue on Thursday afternoon. But I will have you on Thursday, and then we'll get ready to welcome in the Dodgers on Friday. So make sure you're tuned in to the Fightings Final for the 162 post games. That's right. 162 post game shows is our promise to you. Now, of course, we made some changes on the Fightings Final. Steve Fuentes, who's joined us, has very graciously volunteered, and I swear to God, he volunteered for this. I did not thrust this upon him. I was starting to kind of prepare myself to have to do it again this year, but he has decided to take all the late games. So the 2 o'clock in the mornings in San Diego on Wednesday night are no longer going to be me. It could be Steve Fuentes. The 2 o'clock in Arizona, the 2 o'clock in San Francisco, 2 o'clock in Los Angeles. Those games will all feature Steve Fuentes from now on. Now, I'll factor myself in here, but it's nice to know I have a guy that's capable and wanting to do the late night post games, because they are another world of try to do post games. Doing West Coast trip post games, it's tough in hockey, and it's a daunting task in baseball. So, but our goal to you is to bring you 162 post game shows. Hopefully more. I was just Soto for Johnson and Chase. It was just Soto for Johnson and Chase. So who did Dominguez go for? Dominguez was part of that. Dominguez went to the Orioles too, right? Sir Anthony's playing for Baltimore, correct? We traded him last year too. I panic because Robbie does not know how to make a baseball move without analytics, and he likes to give the big FU to the fans by not making any changes. Well, he likes to give the big FU to the fans for not making any of the changes that they want. He makes changes that he wants, but and it's an odd sliding scale what he uses. You know, obviously Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos can do no wrong, but Trey Turner struggles a little bit. He's out of the starting rotation or out of the lineup. It's funny how he treats other players. It's funny. Rob Thompson's not your biggest fan. I got it. You're not Rob Thompson's biggest fan, Mike. And I know you don't like him. And I know you don't have any faith and confidence. And I'm not saying you're wrong at all. And, it's still on the table, right? It's still on the table. If the Phillies, here's an interesting question, and probably for another show because we're running way late on this one topic. But if the Phillies continue to win, and let's call it what it is, win ugly. Right, but they continue to win ugly, and they take us to about mid-June, and they're winning ugly. Is there a chance that you fire Rob Thompson because they're winning ugly? I mean, and what I mean, there's a various words for the word, various meanings of the word ugly. I'm just saying they're not. They're winning. They're winning a la 2022 Eagles. All right, that's how they're winning, or 2023 Eagles, not 2022. 2023 Eagles. That's how they're winning baseball games. Does Rob Thompson, does he lose a lot of credibility there? I mean, I know you would never fire someone who's winning, but it just, to me, would be so Phillies and so Rob Thompson that he would screw it up, but we'd still win. And it would be like this big scam. And then it would all come apart in October. And we could have had a chance to get rid of him in June. I'm just saying, it's never going to be cut and dry at Rob Thompson. It's almost like he's a fungus. You can't get rid of him. And barring a complete collapse, which I don't know if this team is capable of having because of the talent on the team. We keep talking about they're going to win a lot of regular season games, but come postseason, are they in any better situation to make a run for a World Series? And that's a problem because I don't think Rob Thompson could deliver a World Series to the Dodgers, let alone the Phillies. So, Chase, yes. So Sir Anthony was traded to trade the Orioles for. So it was Sir Anthony one for one for Austin Hayes. That was really what the trade was. And then Soto went for those two minor league pitchers. Interesting. Oh yeah, and I forgot about Pache too. Yeah, I would fire Robbie if he won the World Series. So would I, because he's never going to be able to do it again. And Christian Pache, who got cut 2 weeks later and ended up in Atlanta, or ended up in he ended up in Miami. That's where he ended up at the Marlins. I don't know if he's still there, but all right, let's head over now to the it's a wrap of the night segment. As I said, we're way behind. Let's roll it. Yes, sir. The It's a Wraps the of the night segment. Sorry. Of course, this is when we talk draft picks, we talk prospects, we talk spotlight players. We just have some fun as we do on the show every night. And tonight we're going to go back to hockey because we've been negligent with hockey. It's almost like a four-letter word around here these days. Talk about some 2025 NHL draft. In our draft prospect of the night is the left winger from the Djurgården Swedish team, Mr. Victor Eklund, left winger, 5'11", 161, childlike stature. The younger brother of the Sharks' first-round pick, William Eklund. Victor gets above average grades for his smart skills and skating. He's got great edges and handles. He's got a quick and accurate wrister, and he plays you know that word is, heady game. He's expected to play the full year with the Washington Gardens pro team this season, and I think he's got the tools to be a solid contributor there and to be a first-round pick. Now, I believe that first-round pick is probably around the mid-rounds. He's got a lot of tools, Victor Eklund, and through 42 games this year for Der Garden. He's scored 19 goals, 12 assists, 31 points, 37 penalty minutes, and a gaudy plus 16. Definitely has the skills. He really eats up the big ice, the big European ice. He plays every inch of that ice. Now, again, how's that translate to the NHL side? How's the 5'11", 161 translated? I think it's going to translate well. He needs to get a little bit bigger. But as I say, he's got the 5 tools that make him a stellar, attractive mid-round, first-round pick. Don't think he's somebody the Flyers will target because I just don't think he has what we're looking for right now, and he's left winger, which we don't need. And, you know, he is somewhat of a developmental project, probably about 2 years away from even coming to North America. So I still think he's in the timeline for the Flyers, especially in the first round at this point. But he would be an interesting pick for a team like a Colorado or like a Edmonton or like a, you know, Dallas Stars, those types of teams that are constantly trying to keep the stockpile heady as they continue their cup runs year after year after year. He's that type of project. Somebody that you kind of stash away and let him develop on his own. If you're eyeing him up and trying to put a timeline on him, it's probably not going to work well for you. You're probably going to rush him. So I don't think he fits what the Flyers are looking for, but definitely someone to consider mid-first round, 15 through 19, typically. So there you go. There's your NHL draft prospect of the night, Victor Eklund, which leads us to our Phillies prospects. We're going back to the Phillies. We're heading back to the Phillies prospects. Mavis Graves, baby, the left-hand pitcher currently for the Clearwater Thrashers. There are a few players in the Philly system who made more strides in 1 year than Graves did in 2024. The 6'6" southpaw can attack hitters with as many as 5 pitches. He'll throw both a 4-seam up in the zone and a 2-seamer with sink in the 90 to 95 mile range. Getting a lot of ground balls with the latter. He's already added some strength with room for more. So it's easy to dream of him living more in the 93 to 95 mile range and holding it, making the fastball more playable. Graves can really spin a breaking ball, registering spin rates north of 3,000 RPMs with the slider. He's had a separate cutter, though the 2 pitches run into each other. 80th, missing a ton of bats in the low 80s. His changeup took a nice step forward, killing spin with it. Mavis Graves, a left-hander, kind of took me by surprise last year as I do the Down on the Phillies farm segment year after year, kind of spotlighting the minor league players of the week. Graves ended up on the pitcher side of the Thrashers. Was he with the Thrashers? Yeah. Was it the Thrashers? Yes. Thrashers and the FCL Phillies. 14 different times he made pitcher of the week honors last year as we were highlighting things. He is definitely one of those pitchers that he's light years away. I mean, we're talking 3-4 years, but still, when you look at his frame, 6'6", left-hander with a ability to throw 5 pitches right now, it's pretty good. And he's part of the future, the distant, not too recent or the not too near future. I ain't gonna call it distant, but the not too near future. So there you have it. Mavis Graves and Victor Eklund are your of the night segment players of the night. Jet Lachenko continues to do great for the Phantoms. Has 3 goals and 2 assists so far. Yeah. But unfortunately, Joe, we see this, right? We know the step off or the drop off between the AHL and the NHL, and he's going to get a shot in the NHL next year. I definitely think that, and I hope it works for him. Wasn't a big Lachenko guy. I still ain't, still not. But here we go. Let's get on to our final segment of the night, the best part of the night. Yeah. It's the card review. MattyB's card review. That's our night of our segment. Part of the night where we talk about sports cards. One of my very many sports cards, and we just have some fun with it. And I think last time we did it was an all-timer, right? It was Cal Ripken. That's right. It was Cal Ripken. We're staying in that all-time, in that 1980s group of all-time players, along with Cal Ripken, Mike Schmidt, those types of players. And we're going to stay in that group with one tonight. Really a unsung player growing up for me, again, not having cable television because there was no such thing when I was a kid. You only saw this player on This Week in Baseball highlights or Game of the Week type stuff, but you knew who he was because of his name and what he was doing in the box scores. One of the best, I guess you could call him a third baseman. I mean, he battled around from DH third base, but I don't think he's up there on the top 5 of third basemen of all time. He played a solid defensive position, but I don't look at him and Mike Schmidt in the same ilk, but definitely one of the better players growing up that there were. And that is, of course, the Milwaukee Brewer third baseman of the 1980s, Mr. Paul Molitor. And this is his 1988 Topps card. This is from the 88 Topps. Very basic design based on what they did in 87. Topps did, they did the wood paneling cards in 87, and then they came back with this in 88. Sort of kind of was maybe a little bit of a letdown from those of us who spent a lot of time dealing with the 87 Topps cards when they came out. And then here was 88, pretty plain Jane. And this card is definitely plain Jane. But this was the design of the 88 Topps. And of course, Paul Molitor himself, let's talk about him. Lifetime 306 batting average, over 3,300 hits, 234 home runs, 1,307 RBIs, stole 504 bases in his career, and is actually 305 and 343 as a manager. So he's also managed a little bit in the in the bigs. Played for the Brewers from 78 to 92, and that's of course when the Brewers and the Blue Jays were probably his more famous days. And we here in Philadelphia know his contributions to the Blue Jays all too well. In 1993, he also finished out his career in Minnesota with the Twins. He also managed the Twins from 2015 to 2018. 7-time All-Star, a World Series champ in 93 with the friggin' Twins, the Blue Jays. World Series MVP. He won I've forgotten he had won the MVP in 93. He did have a great World Series. He won the World Series MVP in 93. 4-time Silver Slugger Award. He was the AL Manager of the Year in 2017. The Brewers have retired as number 4. He is on the Brewers Wall of Fame, and he's also on the American Family Field Walk of Fame. He's he's also on the Major League Baseball all-time team, and of course, a 2004 Cooperstown inductee, garnishing 85.2% of the vote. A first ballot Hall of Famer, indeed. And there is his 88 Topps card from the Plain Jane 1988 Topps. Now, this card, on just about every database I've seen it, it's about a $10 card, and this card is not like smack dab in the middle of his career. It's nothing special. And again, it's a plain Jane card, but in every database I've seen it, it's about a $10 card, ungraded. And I have me one of those ungraded, pretty good conditioned 88 Topps Paul Molitors right here, sitting on about a $10 card. So I'll take that for Paul Molitor and the plain Jane 1988 Topps. And we'll be doing a lot of 88 Topps because I have a lot of them. So there you have it, your card of the night, or your card review of the night, Paul Molitor. Yeah, he did play. He was kind of sent around the diamond for one. And that's why I don't really give him props as a third baseman. He played third base, probably younger part of his career, but I don't give him props like that. I don't think of great all-time third basemen and Paul Molitor's name pops in. When I think great players, I think of Paul Molitor. I agree with you, Joe. He did play a lot of first base. All right, everybody. Listen, we've come to the end of a great, great program, and I want to thank everybody for their contributions again tonight. The talk was all Phillies tonight, pretty much. We never got to the Flyers, oh well. And it's okay to panic. And it's okay to panic, not based on the 4 games of 2025, but based on everything. It's okay to panic. We did our All of the Night segment, talking some NHL draft and some Phillies prospects, and your card of the night was Paul Molitor. So remember, everybody, before I say goodnight, tomorrow night, following Phillies Rockies, before me, you'll have the Fightins final with Sal G. And then I will have you on Thursday afternoon. And Thursday night at 9, Steve and Pat will be debuting the Attacking Third here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. They're not debuting the show. It's been around for a while, but it's here new tomorrow. And then also on Sunday at 9 a.m., Pat Bernard will be your new guest host of the Wraparound with Sal G. And he'll be taking you through Sunday mornings from now until May 4th. And then on May 4th, P&M in the AM will make its return to the airwaves here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. So great things are coming. And make sure that you're liking, subscribing, sharing, and doing all those wonderful things. And until we talk again tomorrow night, which will be here before you know it. Well, I should say, before you talk to Sal, then you talk to me. But before we get to tomorrow night, you guys have a great rest of your night and a better tomorrow. See ya.